The latest tech.
I'm Alexa. I can answer your questions.
Interviews.
And we are evolving, and we are seeing an amazing opportunity that is happening.
Accessibility.
Accessibility is one of our core values. It's even a part of our mission statement.
This is DoubleTap TV.
Welcome to DoubleTap TV. Thank you guys so much for being with us this week as we talk all about the smart home. If you want to get involved, no problem. Send us an email to feedback@AMI.CA. You can also follow us on Twitter, or all our social media for that matter is @DoubleTap Canada. And don't forget that hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. I am Mark AFLALO with Stephen Scott by my side. Stephen, the smart home that's a pretty big term and a pretty big net to cast these days when you talk about tech at home, isn't it?
It really is, Mark. It's an incredibly large area. I mean, I remember when we started talking about smart home, it was just a few devices. I remember going along when we went to CES in 2020, and there was so many, and it had just exploded, the amount of tech that had appeared that has the smart moniker in it. Some of it might not feel very smart when we talk about light bulbs and things like that, but actually it is smart, right? It's able to be controlled by various devices, and of course it can have a huge benefit to a lot of us as well. But it really has. I mean, this space has exploded into every area of the home. Now, I'm going to make your memory work a little bit harder here. Do you remember the first thing that you installed in your house that was remote controlled? The first, I guess you could call it, smart home device in your house? I actually do, and I remember specifically because I remember buying this because of the fact that I didn't have to have any kind of hub or any kind of extra stuff. I could just buy this thing and set it up via an app, and it was a TP-Link plug. I remember it was a smart plug, and I remember I plugged a fan into it, and just being able to ask Lady A in this case, once I'd hooked it all up and got the app set up and linked that through my Lady A account and all that, being able to ask Lady A to turn my fan on and off was like the greatest thing in the world. I felt like I had superpowers. Yeah, I think mine was also a plug. I think it was a Belkin Wemo plug, or maybe it was a Belkin Wemo switch, but that came after the plug. It might even have been, you know what, I think it was my Schlag smart lock for the front of my house that allowed me. It was just a deadbolt that let me put a couple passwords in there and turn, and allow people into my house when I wanted to. But I've been upgrading over time. Well, that's right. I mean, yeah, that's one word for it, Mark. I mean, I've bought a few smart bulbs, and I've bought a couple of smart plugs, and I've got into the whole Philips Hue thing, and that I'm developing. But you've gone much further, especially much further than the last time we had a tour of your home. What's changed in your house? It's funny you ask that, because most recently I added some Lutron Serena blinds to my bedroom so that I can close and open the blinds with my voice or just a switch. I think I've upgraded a lot, and I tend to do that every year. I kind of look for what's new, and I say, okay, what can I retrofit now? Shall I show you? Shall I give you a new tour? Oh, by all means. Like any home, we start outside with my doorbell. My HomeKit doorbell here is the Logitech, although I have a new Belkin one I'll be testing soon, which works pretty much the same. Onto the door, you can see here I've got the Schlag Encode Smart Lock. That's also HomeKit enabled, but there's a new version on the horizon called the Encode Plus. The next step when you walk into the house is the thermostat. Now, I use the Ecobee 4 smart thermostat that has both Siri and Amazon Echo built in. I can set scenes, I can remotely control the cooling and heating, and even set schedules so that it cools at night, heats at night, or does things at various times of the day. Plus, the thermostat can be used as a motion sensor and a temperature sensor, which is great if I wanted to perhaps create a scene, like when it detects motion, turn the lights on. The next thing people notice in my house is this picture frame. It's actually a Samsung TV called The Frame. It lets you display artwork and has a really nice matte finish, which makes it blend into the environment and actually display art like it would be on a picture. But the frame itself is interchangeable, so you can actually put really nice gold or brass frames around it and make it look more than a picture frame, or more like a picture frame if you want it to be that way. Plus, there's Amazon Echo on board if you want to use it. In my case, I don't. Turn around in my living room and you'll meet my iRobot Roomba. Now, I've got two of these, one on each floor of the house, and I've set them to go on every single day when everybody leaves the house. I've got this scheduled to go when people leave so it doesn't bother us, and it makes sure all the dust and debris is gone by the time we get home. There's even a black compartment on the base itself that not only charges the device when it comes back home, but it'll empty the vacuum compartment itself so that it can go back out and clean when it's scheduled to do so next.
I've got a couple Wemo smart plugs. This lets you plug in a third-party accessory like a lamp and control that by your voice or an app. In the kitchen, you'll notice our faucet is actually controlled by a Wave, but it can also be controlled by the Amazon Echo and dispense exact amounts of water when needed. The next thing you'll notice in my house and in every single room are the light switches. Every switch in this house is a Lutron light switch. It might be an on-off switch, it might be a dimmer. They're all HomeKit compatible because they were one of the first companies to make HomeKit compatible switches. This is a far cheaper alternative than buying a $60 light bulb for every single bulb in your house. Now, the TVs in my house are all Roku TCL TVs. I love TCL and I love Roku because they have a built-in media player, but I actually use third-party Apple TVs on my actual television sets. Why, you ask? Well, because they're pretty fast devices, but they're also tied in to Apple HomeKit, which means that they act as a hub so that any other device on my network is going to be available to me on the internet when I'm outside the house. But not only that, it also features things like watching my HomeKit cameras and actually controlling HomeKit devices, which is not available on smart TVs that don't have Apple TV for that. Got a bunch of cameras in common spaces. Here I've got the Ecobee camera that works seamlessly with HomeKit, just like the doorbell, lets me view it remotely and record with HomeKit as well. For when I go outside, I got a Sonos Move smart speaker that's battery powered and great for outside use when the weather is right. When people come over and you want to have a barbecue, set the music to play with Sonos or use your third-party system, for example, SiriusXM or maybe Spotify or Stitcher. It charges up and lasts up to 8 hours and has Sonos built in as well as Amazon Echo. Windows are another great place for the smart home innovation to take form. Thanks to Lutron, I've got their brand new honeycomb architectural shades in the bedroom. These are blackout blinds, and with a simple command, I can open them or close them at will. Our master bathroom is where I'm going to end this tour, and I'm going to do it with a smart toilet. Yes, I said smart toilet. This toilet detects when someone is near. It'll actually open the lid, and with the remote control, it can do things like operate the built-in bidet, flush the toilet, turn on a light, heat the actual seat. Lots of really cool things on this smart toilet. Moving on to the shower, you'll see my U by Moen smart shower control system, which, using my voice and Amazon Echo, I can say things like, "Alexa, turn on the shower preset too." And it turns on a preset temperature thanks to something I set up ahead of time and keeps that temperature there the entire time until I am ready to say I'm done. "Alexa, turn off the shower." Finally, in the master bathroom, we did heated floors throughout to keep our feet nice and toasty, and the thermostat that controls those are the Misa Smart Thermostat, also HomeKit compatible and controllable by our voice.
Wow, Mark, you have got a lot of stuff in that house that's smart. A lot more than I remember from last time. Wow, you've kitted out that in a big way. And the interesting thing is, of course, all of this lends itself so well under the guise of accessibility, right? This really helps disabled people in our lives. You know, a lot of this stuff might seem gimmicky to some people. You know, the heated floor maybe is that. I don't know. But then again, there's a lot of people who would really benefit from that. Certain disabled people need heat constantly, especially in their feet. So, you know, that would be really useful there. But, you know, smart blinds, you know, I have a real issue with light. And, you know, sometimes I just want it to be as dark as possible. So, you know, having those smart blinds to just, you know, be able to get down and even in the morning just open themselves back up for people who are physically disabled, for people who have issues with their hands, that is going to make such a difference. For people who are totally blind as well, who aren't bothered by light, you know, just being able to know that the home is essentially wakening itself up in the morning. That's really important. It's really empowering.
Yeah, you know, and when it comes to the smart home, honestly, Stephen, there are so many devices and so many terms that are being thrown out there. So we have to kind of got to bring things to the present day and also look to the future. And what better way to do that, Stephen, than bringing someone on the show who knows way more about this stuff than I do, or than you and I do together. And that is someone from Wemo themselves. Are you ready for this one?
I think it's time we brought an expert on, and I think, in fairness, that's probably the case for all episodes of Double Tap TV.
Well, coming up next, Dave Hawkes is standing by from Wemo. He's going to join us here on Double Tap TV. So stick around. Again, if you want to get involved, it's feedback at AMI.CA. On all our social media, it is at Double Tap Canada with that hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. Back in a moment.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit AMI.CA/DoubleTap. This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome back to Double Tap TV. If you want to get involved, our email address is feedback at AMI.CA. You can connect on all our social media. It's at Double Tap Canada. Use that hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. Mark AFLALO and Stephen Scott with you each and every single week. Stephen, our next guest is the global product manager at Wemo, a Belkin brand that kicked off, things in my smart home life many, many years ago, as I alluded to. Dave Hawks, thank you so much for being with us this week on Double Tap TV.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Dave, you've been making light switches, dimmers, smart plugs, and now even a HomeKit connected doorbell. What was that first device that Wemo actually came out with? Do you remember?
I wasn't with the company then. Probably looks like I would have been, but I was not. And as I recall, we were doing things like smart plugs early on. And I actually got a hold of some of our older products, like we had a coffee maker. We had, air filtration. We had all kinds of stuff. And what's funny is back in the day, it basically just turned on. You could say, turn this on, and it would just turn on. And then it got a little bit more complicated. Well, you could have it turn on at a certain time, or turn off, so it was very, very basic. Right. And it was very much a novelty too. Right.
Dave, talk to us a bit more about these connected devices in general. Why are they so important in the landscape of tech?
When you do the novelty approach, it has its lifespan. Right. People eventually get used to it. They're like, OK, yeah, I get it. OK, it turns on. Right. But for long-term success in this market, what people are looking for are ways to simplify their lives. They're looking for ways to save money. And what's interesting is, we're start looking at ways to help people out, whether it's from a health perspective or from, safety or all these things. And when you start having connected devices, when you have these things start working together, that's when it all comes together and starts to work as far as providing a true benefit to end users.
Dave, the interconnectivity and the automations that you can do nowadays with this technology continues to blow me away. How important is that element to the smart home?
I really think that's the future. Like what you were saying is to make these things all connected, right? I mean, so when you have a thermostat that turns on the light, or a doorbell that lets someone who's hard of hearing or completely deaf know that someone's there or a presence is there. That's a huge benefit. I mean, it's a simple step, but it has big benefits to people that don't have access to that stuff, at least not easily. And what's great about it, it's easy to do. You can do it yourself. It's not like you have to have some guy come in and, put it all together for you. You do it.
Now, as I've said here on the show already, Dave, accessibility is a big part of the benefits that the smart home brings and the smart devices that we can buy, that we can get off the shelf, that we can use every day. Is that something you build into the products deliberately, or is it something that's just a brilliant byproduct?
I wish I could say that we thought of all like the cool stuff that people do with it. That's what I tell our management, that we thought of it all. But, the reality is that people come up with, just great ideas. And one of the things you just mentioned is one of the things we saw early on. Well, people took our doorbell. Now, this is a HomeKit compatible device, right? And so they took the doorbell, but their grandmother or mother-in-law is hard of hearing and lives with them. And as soon as you get the doorbell ring, the light turns on. Right, because you can connect that through an automation. Well, I didn't think of it, unfortunately, but great idea. It just helps people, and that's certainly the direction everything is going. Right, some stuff we can build on, other stuff people are just going to blow us away with what they can do.
Dave Hawks from Wemo, stick around a bit because there's so much more that we want to cover, including a couple industry terms that we need some help with. We need you to translate them in plain English, and those are thread and matter. Thread and matter, guys. Terms we're hearing a lot about these days. This is Double Tap TV. We're in conversation with Dave Hawks from Wemo, and we'll continue after a quick break.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit AMI.CA/DoubleTap. This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome back to Double Tap TV. Thank you for being with us each and every single week. Mark AFLALO and Stephen Scott with you, and we are in conversation with Dave Hawks, the Global Product Manager over at Wemo. Now, Dave, let's do some plain English translation here, okay? Why is the term thread important? What is it exactly?
Bottom line is thread is a network device, right? These are devices that are set up in a network. Now, your typical network in your home It's great for things like Netflix and, lots of data, lots of power being used there. It's great for that, right? It's not so great for an IoT device. They don't have a lot of data. They don't need a lot of power. And that they can actually slow down the primary network. When we introduced Thread, it created a little radio on the device that creates a completely separate network on its own, completely separate from your primary network that you have. In my case, I've got Linksys mesh network. My Thread network is completely separate from that. And what they've done that was just genius is each of these devices, because it doesn't need a lot of data, you can actually make these devices turn into little nodes that all communicate with each other. So the more devices you have on your primary network slows it down. The more devices you have in your Thread network speeds it up.
Okay, right. Okay, so that's Thread. All right, I think I've got my head around that. But another word we hear a lot is matter. So why does matter matter?
Nah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good. Nice segue. Matter makes total sense. In this, so I'm sitting in my office working from home these days, like a good chunk of the rest of the world. I've got so many different devices. I've got Amazon devices, and I won't say her name because whenever I do, it turns on. I have Google, I've got Wemo, I've got Wiz light bulbs, and because I'm me, that's actually not that big of a deal. But if for your average user, for my wife, she can't stand it. She can't figure out what to use for which device. It makes sense. As I mentioned earlier, I went from 12 to 42 devices. The number of IoT devices are increasing exponentially. I looked this up. It was a while ago. There are more than 600 different apps in the market today. I only have 400 in my office, but you can see the problem coming like a train. And the industry saw it long ago. The beauty of Matter, I often call it the Rosetta Stone of IoT devices. It lets all devices talk to each other, as long as they're part of the Matter consortium, right? They're part of that technology.
Dave, are devices available now with Matter technology? Can we actually get them?
So CSA, which is the organization that kind of basically oversees the whole Matter development, originally had planned on releasing Matter in May of this year. About a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, they came back and said, you know what? There's a lot of changes that were being made. We're going to launch it in September.
Yeah, delays, I get it, Dave. We're all used to that now. The pandemic has caused that. But I wonder about the devices we already own. I mean, do I have to go out and buy all new plugs, all new smart devices, all that stuff? Or is there an update that's going to be pushed through to enable this Matter feature?
Yeah, it's a very good point. Some of that's to be determined. In my view, from what we can tell, there are enough changes going on with Matter that an old device will likely not be able to work with Matter, right? You'll have to get a Matter device. That's kind of a pain, but at the same time, it's worth it.
So at the end of the day, is Matter important and a good thing for the smart home industry?
Oh, absolutely. This is, this makes so much sense. Matter in particular is just one of those, you talk to someone for, 5 seconds and they'll get it. They're like, look, you don't have to worry about, which device type you're buying. You can buy whatever you want. If it's Matter, it will work with what you've got. And that's just common sense.
Dave Hawks, thank you so much for being with us this week. We had a lot of fun.
But it's a lot of fun to talk about it. So thanks very much.
Stephen, it's amazing to see this amalgamation or this group of companies get together. One question I asked Dave that we didn't talk about here was what companies are involved in Matter. And he said the better question is what companies aren't involved. And I think this is probably the first time that we're going to see this conglomeration of companies like Apple and Google and Amazon, you name it. If they're in the smart home space, they're getting together on Matter, and that's a pretty big thing because they know that the future of this technology is interoperability, and they don't normally play well together, but now they are.
But they need to, right? Because, for your average consumer who doesn't understand all this and, will be watching this and getting a sense of how it all works, they still need to have some comfort that what they buy, what they're spending their hard-earned money on is going to be applicable in a few years. I think that's the problem. If you bring out a product that all of a sudden in a couple of months' time they say, well, you got that product, well, you know what, you need this new one in order to do it. And maybe, let's be honest, when it comes to things like smart bulbs, I must have about 30 to 40 of those in my home. I don't want to have to go and buy all those again. So people need to be confident that A, the money they're spending has value, and also B, that what they're buying will work with whatever devices it is they're going to connect it to, and that be a continual experience through the lifetime of the product.
I think we're going to see some companies also offer some free upgrades because, yeah, you're going to need some new hardware, but think about those 30 bulbs in your house. I'm guessing most of them are Philips Hue, which means that if you just change your hub, then you're suddenly compatible. That's why I went with Lutron, in my house and just changed switches. I didn't want to have to buy $60 bulbs everywhere. I wanted to just change the switches so I can control my lights. So hopefully we'll see some companies get on board and offer us maybe some discounts, some trade-ups, who knows. But, as long as we get this stuff upgraded, and I think that's the important part, get yourself updated with Matter, and it's going to be a much more pleasant experience for you down the road.
Yeah, especially as I've just spent all that money on Philips Hue bulbs, right? So, I'm not buying them again, Mark.
I know, Stephen. It's okay. You're spending money. That's something really hard for you. Guys, thanks for being with us this week. Thanks for being with us each and every single week. Again, if you want to pipe in here, let us know. Feedback at AMI.CA is our email address, of course, on all our social media. It is at DoubleTap Canada. Use that hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap, and we'll definitely get to your questions. On behalf of Dave Hawkes and Stephen Scott, I am Mark AFLALO. We'll chat with you again on our next edition of DoubleTap TV.
Hosted by Mark AFLALO and Stephen Scott. Editing Jordan Steeves and Mark AFLALO. Voiceover Anna Vicino. Integrated Described Video Specialist Ron Rickford. Coordinating Producer Jennifer Johnson. Director Production CARA Nye. Director Programming Brian Perdue. VP Content Development and Programming John Melville. President and CEO David Arrington. Copyright 2022 Accessible Media Inc.